Okay, so this video is gonna be intended to get you started on using micropipettors, which we use to measure small volumes. Um, I have included links to really detailed and excellent videos on how to use micropipettors that you're gonna have to watch because I'm gonna keep this one brief because those videos really do a really good job at explaining things really better than I can do. Um, so whenever I work with micropipettors, um, I like to make sure that I have a dedicated beaker for dirty tips. So I would like you to do the same in our labs and just use a little bit of lab tape and write 30 tips on the lab tape and then put that on the beaker that you want to use for the 30 tips. Um, and the reason I want you to do that right away is because I don't want you to mix liquid waste with 30 tips, which is a common mistake that I see people do. So you're likely to have another beaker that you're gonna be using for your liquid waste, and it will be great if you try to keep these two separate, right? So you will just have a beaker for liquid waste and then a separate beaker just for the dirty tips. I'm using this yellow pH 7 buffer as a sample that I'm gonna be pipetting. So that's just the sample that I'm using um, for this demo. So I'm just gonna put this here, and it says sample. Okay, so to use micropipettors, obviously you're gonna need the sample that you're gonna be measuring, and then you need the micropipettors, and then you need tips that go with the micropipettors that come on boxes that look like this. Okay? There are 4 different types of micropipettors that can be used to measure different ranges of volumes. All of the micropipettors, regardless of the range of volume that they're intended to measure, look very similar. Same color, almost the same size. So you gotta get used to actually looking at the top of the plunger to see the range of volumes that they're intended to be used for. Our smallest one, which we typically refer to as a P2, because the maximum volume that it can measure is 2 microliters, can be used to measure volumes as small as 0.1 microliters to 2 microliters. The next one is what we call the P20, because the max volume is 20 microliters, and this one can be used to measure volumes from 2 microliters to 20 microliters. Then we have the P200 from 20 to 200, and the P1000, which can measure from 100 to 1000 microliters. Okay, so one thing that helps me to learn how to read the dials on the micropipetter is to start by setting them to their max volume. So for example, if I'm using the P2 micropipetter, I know that the maximum volume is 2 microliters, so I'll set the dial to 2 microliters. So I want to show you what that will look like. Eddie, can we show them? So here's the dial for the P2, and it's set to its max volume, which is 2 microliters. Notice that there's one, the top number is black, and the bottom two, digits are red. And the reason why they're red, because it indicates that there's a decimal point after the 2. So the second line is 1/10 of a microliter, and the third line is 1/100th of a microliter. Now, one thing with pipettors is that you need to be really careful that you don't go above, you don't set them above their max volume, right? So this one is already set to the max volume, so you would never want to like try to set it to, for example, measure 2.5 microliters because you passed the max volume. So let's say that we wanted to measure 1 microliter with this, so we will have to turn the dial so that the top value will show 1 and the 2 following numbers will show 0, 0. So yeah, so you're 96, 94, 91, 98, keep going. So that's 1.71. We're gonna keep going. 1.62, 1.61, 1.56. We're gonna keep going all the way down. Well, let's just go to 1.5 microliters. So a little bit more to the 0 on the. Okay, so that will be 1.5 microliters. Let's say that you actually needed 1.55 microliters. You can do that with this micropipettor. So we'll just set the bottom digit to 5. A little bit more. All right. So that will be measuring 1.55 microliters. Okay. Okay, let's look at the P20. So we already set, so the max volume for the P20 is 20 microliters, and that's what 20 microliters will look like. So this means, and notice that the upper 2 digits are in black, so that's microliters. So, and then the bottom one is in red, so there's a decimal point between the 2 top digits and the bottom one. So that's 20 microliters. So if we wanted to set these to, for example, 10.5, we're gonna show you how that will look. So that's 19 microliters, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and now we're almost to 10. 10, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6. There you have it, 10.5 microliters. Okay, let's look at the P200. So the P200 is the easiest one to read because there isn't any decimal points. Okay, so it's all shown in microliters. So this will be 200 microliters, which is the max volume. And we're gonna show you, so let's say that we wanted to do 198 microliters. So we will just adjust the dial till it reads 100. Oh, we're 84, there you go. So that will be 184 microliters. So this is the easiest one to read. Okay, so then the P1000 max volume is gonna be 1000 microliters, which is 1 mil. So 1 mil is the same as 1000 microliters, and we set it to the max. So there you have it. So when it's set to the max, it's gonna read 100. And in this case, the top digit is red, and that means that it's a decimal point after the first digit, right? So it's actually reading mils. So the P1000 is actually reading mils, and that's showing 1.00 mils, okay? Which is the same as 1000 microliters. Okay? So for me, what it helps, once we move away from measuring 1 mil, so let's set this to do 900 microliters, for example. So we're gonna turn the dial till it reads 09 0. There you go. You went past it a little bit, go back. You can look at it till you're like, there you go. So that will be 900 microliters. So again, for me, I just cheat. So I just assume that if, unless I'm doing 1 mil, I can assume that this is really microliters without showing the last number, right? So you will add another 0, and that will be 900 microliters. So let's say that you wanted to measure 500 microliters. We're going to show you what that looks like. So we'll turn the dial till it's 0, 50. There you go. So that's 500 microliters. It's actually reading 0.5 mils, which is the same as 500 microliters. So again, like 1 mil is 1,000 microliters. Half of that will be 0.5 mils, and that will be 500 microliters. The smallest volume that you can measure with the P1000 is 100 microliters. So we'll set this to 100 microliters just so that you see what that looks like, but it will be 0.10. So remember that anything below 100 microliters is no longer accurate if you were using the P1000 to do the measurement. So this is the lowest measurement that you can do with this pipettor. And in fact, you know, usually if I need to measure 100 microliters, I prefer to switch over to the P200 to do that, because it falls right within the middle of the range for the P200.